Hello, all of you budding learners. Today we're back to another video with me, who is Anushka, and we're here to learn about the chapter Fiber to Fabric. So, what are fibers? Fibers are like these particular things found in particular tissues, actually, found in plants and certain animals, which can be used to create fabrics, which are used to create clothes in return. So, here I have different types of fibers as in the sources. Here we have silk fiber, which can be used to make silk clothes, jute fiber, which can be used to make jute cloth or jute fabric. Then we have cotton fibers over here, which is used to make cotton fabric. And we have the fleece, as in we have sheep in this picture, uh, whose fleece is used to make wool. So these are the different types of fibers that we all find. I mean, the main types. There are many other types as well, like synthetic fibers. Fibers are artificial fibers. These fibers do not have a plant or animal source. Like here you can see that this is the silk fiber. So this needs to be extracted or taken from the silkworm. Jute fiber needs to be taken from the jute plant, but synthetic fibers don't have to be taken from a plant or an animal. They can be created in a lab. And there are many other types of fabrics and fibers, but in this chapter we'll be learning about two main types. So, okay, let me tell you a little more about what fibers are, just to get your concept clear. So just how we need milk to create butter, we need fiber to create fabric. It's like a building material. After certain processes are done on the fiber, after the fiber goes through several changes, it becomes fabric. And in this chapter we'll be learning about that journey from a particular fiber to a fabric. So here we have the types of fiber: animal fibers and plant fibers. So, animal fibers are fibers that we get from animals, and plant fibers are fibers which we get from plants. So, two of the examples of animal fibers would be wool and silk. And examples of plant fibers that I've listed over here, just two of them, would be cotton and jute. So first we'll be learning about wool. Yeah, so wool comes from sheep, mainly sheep, but there are many other animals, as you can see over here. So wool, the source is where it comes from. The source of wool is fleece of animals like sheep, goat, yak, camel, llama, alpaca, and many others. So, what exactly is fleece? Fleece is nothing but, okay, fine, let me start with a simpler part of it. So all these animals, as you can see, have very thick fur. Correct? They have very thick and long hair. So, these animals, as I said, have hair on their body, and they have hair to keep themselves warm. They have long hair because they can trap the air inside the hair, and hence they can keep themselves warm, because I had told you in a previous video that air is an insulator of heat, which means if there is a lot of air between two layers, then heat will not be able to pass through them. So in the same way, since these animals have a very thick fur or very thick hair, there's a lot of air between the hair. So that's why this fur keeps them warm. So that's the main use of this thick hair in these kind of animals. And let's focus on this sheep over here. So, just like all these animals, uh, sheep has two types of hair. One is the coarse beard hair, which grows over here near the chin. That's really coarse, it's really rough. And the other is the fine soft under hair, which is really close to the skin. So, the hair on the chin area and other areas and other parts of the sheep body are pretty rough. It's pretty coarse. And the hair which is very close to the skin, just like a little away from the skin, that is very thin and it is very soft. So this fine hair is what is used to make wool. Moving on. Selective breeding. Selecting parents for obtaining special characters in their offsprings. So now there are certain breeds of sheep, as in certain members of the sheep family, which have very, very special and very soft, fine hair, and some have only fine hair. So these kind of sheep can easily be used to create to process the fiber into wool. So what certain people do is they choose the parents they choose two sheep so that they can become the parents of few other sheep, and they choose the parents that have the best quality of wool. So just like how you look like your parents, the same way sheep babies will look like their sheep parents. So if the parents have really, really good wool on them, really good fur, really fine hair, fine fleece, I mean, then their child will also have very fine fleece, so a very fine hair. So that's why what people do is they choose the sheep parents, and they so that all the sheep children of these two a particular sheep can have very, very good um, hair quality, very fine hair, so that they can use that to create wool. So this is called selective breeding, selecting parents to obtain special characters in their offsprings. Offsprings means children. Special characters here would be the fine hair, the fine hair that grows on sheepskin that is used to make wool. So if we choose the best two sheep to be the parents of many other sheep, then they will their kid sheep will also have extremely good characteristics, extremely good hair. So this is called as selective breeding. So as I told you in this slide, there are many animals that yield wool. That means that produce wool. There, it's not just sheep, but also goats, yak, llama, alpaca, camel. These are the various types of animals that yield wool. So So the yak, this is a yak. It is commonly found in the mountainous regions of Tibet and Ladakh. So where there are huge and big mountains like the Himalayas, yak are very easily found. So there might not be many sheep living over there. So people over there, they use the fleece that they get from yak. So this is very common in Tibet and Ladakh. Then there are certain types of goats, this breed of goats called the Angora goats. They are found in Jammu and Kashmir region. So the fleece that they obtain from there is called Angora fleece, and the wool that they get from Angora fleece is the Angora wool. Then in in the desert regions, fleece is obtained from the camel, and in South America wool is obtained from llamas and alpacas. Here we have the table that I just spoke about, the animal and the place where it's found. So these are the animals that from which fleece can be obtained. So yak in Tibet and Ladakh, Angora goats, Jammu and Kashmir, camel in the desert regions, llama and alpaca in the South American region. Now, moving on, how does fleece become wool is what we're going to study, because fleece here is the fiber, wool is the fabric. So we're going to study all those processes involved for from the cutting of the fleece to the making of wool. So for that, there is one important step: rearing and breeding of sheep. What does that mean? That basically means taking care of sheep, making them your pet animals. So if you go to a farm, there you will see that there are that the farmer has many pet animals like cows. He has chickens. He has dogs. He has pigs sometimes, and sheep, goat. There's so many animals. So what does the farmer exactly do? He takes care of these animals. He gives them good food. He makes sure that they're growing healthy and growing well. So that is what rearing and breeding of sheep means. Feeding sheep on grass, pulses, corn, jowar, oil cakes, and minerals, and growing them in herds, so that there are many good and healthy sheep. What is oil cakes? Oil cakes, okay, let me make this simple for you. You guys know that that oil can be extracted from certain seeds. Like if you crush sunflower seeds on a newspaper, that is, if you take a newspaper, lay a newspaper, and keep sunflower seeds or groundnut seeds, groundnuts on it, then when you crush them, you will see a little stain on the newspaper. That is the oil in them. So once you remove all the oil from the oil seeds, then what is left behind is called oil cake. So sheep are fed on grass, pulses, corn, jowar, oil cakes, minerals, and they're grown in herds. So that is called as rearing and breeding of sheep. This is very, very common in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. This is very common there. And these sheep that are being cared for by the farmers or the shepherds are taken to fields full of grass so that they can graze. What does graze mean? So that they can feed on grass, they can feed on leaves, they can feed on plants. So this is called rearing and breeding of sheep. And here I have another table. This is just for your information. You don't have to learn this by heart, but it will be good if you know about them. So this is the name of the breed. These are the different breeds of sheep, and this is the kind of quality. This is the kind of wool they that can be obtained from these sheep, and this is where these sheep are found. So the Lohi breed of sheep is produces very good quality of wool, and it is found in Rajasthan and Punjab. Then the Rampur Bushehr uh, provides brown fleece and is found in Uttar Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh. The Nali sheep provides wool for carpets, and this is found in Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab. Then the Bhakarwal sheep provides fleece or provides wool for woolen shawls. So this is found in Jammu and Kashmir. Then Marwari sheep provide coarse wool. These are found in Gujarat. And Patanwadi sheep, whose wool is used for hosiery, are found in Gujarat. So there are many processes which start from selective breeding to the making of woolen fabric. So we're going to study that now. So after the two parent sheep are selected for selective breeding, which we discussed earlier, the sheep are reared and bred, which means they are fed on good quality food like grass, pulses, corn, jowar, oil cakes, minerals, and they are made to grow well. And after that comes the next step. After that, we have processing of fleece into wool. So these are the various steps involved, or the various steps that take place before fleece becomes wool. So step 1 is when the fleece is called shearing. So the fleece and a layer of skin is removed from the body of the sheep. So boys will be able to understand this really well for this matter. So when you go to a barber shop, the barber uses a machine to shave your hair, correct? A similar machine is used to shear the fleece and a layer of the skin from the body of the sheep. So when a person is using a machine, why is it so that the sheep does not get hurt? Because even a layer of skin is removed from the body of the sheep, correct? So why does that happen? So the simple answer to that would be that our skin has many layers of dead cells. So remember I told you about cells in the previous videos. Yeah, so these cells and certain layers of the cells on our skin are dead, which means even if they are removed from our skin, we won't be able to feel them. We won't be able to feel any pain because these cells are already dead. So the same way, when while shearing, even though a layer of skin is removed from the sheep's body, it does not feel anything because they're all dead cells. And also, sheep fur is just like our hair. Once we go for a haircut and get our hair cut, that time it grows after some time, after a few months. So the same way, even sheep fur grows after a few months. So it's so the sheep is not hurt in any way. Then okay, so this process usually happens in the summer season, because in the summer season the sheep don't need their fur to keep them warm. The main function of the fur or the thick hair on sheep body is to keep the sheep warm, and in summertime that is not needed. If they remove the fur of the sheep in winter, then the sheep will obviously feel cold, and it also might die because it's not able to withstand the cold weather. Like when we feel cold, we wear a sweater or we wear a jacket, but but no sheep can do that. So what protects the sheep is the fur. So this fur, if it is removed in summer, then it will grow back by the time it is winter. But if it is removed in winter, then there will be nothing to protect the sheep skin and the sheep body. Then step 2 is called scouring. Scouring is when the sheared skin, that is the skin and the fleece removed in the shearing process, is washed in big tanks to remove grease, dust and dirt. So this is also done by machines, but here we have a picture of two men who are scouring the sheared fleece, which means they're washing all that skin and fur to remove grease, dust and dirt, to remove all the dirt and all the things that are of no use for making it into wool. Then step 3 is sorting. So different hair textures are sorted out. I told you that there are two types of hair on the sheep body: the coarse beard hair and the fine hair near the skin, that which is called as fleece. So sometimes all of this is mixed up, and also while shearing, the person does not keep aside the fleece and the beard hair if he actually removes that also. So sorting is the step where all these different textures are sorted. So they're sorted on basis of color and texture. So in this picture you can see that here there is fleece from a black sheep. This is probably a um, little coarse fur, and this is soft fleece. So this is how the fleece is sorted based on its texture. Then step 4 is picking of burrs. So what are burrs? Burrs are these small fluffy fibers that are picked out from the hair. So now here, after sorting, we have these small fluffy uh, lumps of fiber. So these are picked. So these small fluffy fibers are called as burrs. 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 So these burrs are picked. That is, they are taken out. They are scoured again, which means they are washed in these kind of tanks, and then they are set to dry so that wool can be drawn from it. Then so that wool, yeah, so that wool can be drawn from it, can be drawn. I don't think you can see that, so I'm just going to expand this box so that you guys can see. Yeah, so that the fabric can be drawn. Oh, I'm sorry guys, so that fabric can be drawn, so that the fabric can be drawn from it. Yeah, so that is about picking of burrs. So why are burrs picked? So that they are scoured, which means they're cleaned in big tanks, they are dried, so that it is easy to draw the fabrics out of it. Then yeah, here is a picture of that being done. That is the fabric being drawn from the burrs. Then the fifth step is dyeing. Dyeing does not mean killing the fabric, it means coloring it, dipping it in beautiful colors like you can see over here. So that is called as dyeing. And so why is dyeing done? Because not all people like black, brown and white colors, because those are the only colors found in different type of sheep. You cannot have a pink colored sheep, correct? So because if there were a pink colored sheep, then it would give us pink wool, but that's not possible. So what people do is they paint these fabrics so that people like the colors, because not everyone likes black, brown and white. Then we come to step 6, or the last step, where where the fibers are straightened, combed and rolled into yarns. So here you can see that they're straightened, combed and rolled into balls of yarn, so that can be used to weave woolen cloth. So there are few drawbacks, so there are few negative points of this. So the wool industry has many people working in it. A lot of people from our country work in the wool industry, but this job of the sorter, so this person who sorts the wool based on its texture, sorts the fibers in based on its text based on the different textures, might get infected by this bacteria called anthrax. So anthrax is this bacteria which causes blood disease or sorter's disease. So there are these kind of risks when it comes to the job of a sorter, because if there are any bacteria in the sheep fur, or if there are any germs, then that could attack the sorter. So that's why this bacteria called anthrax causes a blood disease called the sorter's disease, SORTER apostrophe S disease, sorter's disease. So I don't know if you guys are wondering about this, but let me tell you anyways. Why do you think it hurts when someone pulls our hair, but why does it not hurt when when we're getting a haircut? So when we're pulling our hair, we're pulling it from the roots. So the hair on our skin, it has roots too, as in deep inside the skin. There are roots of hair. So when you're plucking the hair, you're plucking it out of its roots. You're plucking it out of the roots from the point where it is growing. You're trying to detach it, you're breaking it, so that's why it hurts. But then when we're getting a haircut, the roots are not being affected. So when we pluck hair, that time the roots can feel, so there are sensory cells, or there are nerve endings which help us to feel. There are skin nerve cells which help us to feel. So when the hair is plucked from the skin, that time we can feel the pain. But since there are no nerve endings on the outermost layer of our skin, that's why, and since the cells are dead, that's why though someone gives us a haircut, it does not hurt. And also, another thing that I would like to tell you is that wool is used in the winters to keep us warm, because there are many air pockets between the threads. So if you have watched the video on heat, you will be able to understand more clearly what I'm talking about. So there are tiny air pockets between the threads when it comes to a woolen sweater. So that's why so since there is air trapped between the threads, heat cannot be easily transferred, because air is an insulator of heat. So that's why woolen clothes keep us warm. But in case of cotton clothes do not have many of these air pockets. So that's why, since there is no, since there is no air, there is no insulation of heat, and that's why cotton clothes cannot keep us warm. That's why we choose to wear woolen clothes in the winter. So this is about wool. Now, moving on to the second animal fiber, which we'll be studying about, silk. So, what is silk? Silk is another type of fabric. If you have actually seen your mom wearing saris, which you of course have, then certain saris that your mom or grandmom or your relatives might wear might be made of silk. You must have heard them speaking about Kanchipuram silk, Madurai silk, this silk, that silk. There are so many varieties. So that is basically silk. Silk is another fabric which we will be learning about today. So the source of silk fiber is the silkworm or the silk moth. So I'll be telling you more about this, but before that, let me tell you a quick fact. So as we had studied about rearing and breeding of sheep to get wool, the rearing and breeding of silkworms or silk moth is called as sericulture. 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 So this is the process where silkworms or silk moths are taken care of and made to grow, so that silk can be extracted from them. So let me tell you about the life cycle of a silk moth. So this is a silk moth right over here. So a silk moth is this type of moth. It's an insect actually. So a female silk moth lays a lot of eggs. So these dots that you can see, those are actually the eggs of the silk moth. So when the silk moth lays eggs, after a few days, the eggs hatch and grow into caterpillars, which are called as silkworms. So this is what a silkworm looks like. And the silkworm, it feeds on different types of leaves. So the most popular type of silk is called as mulberry silk, and this mulberry silk is when the silkworm feeds on mulberry leaves. Mulberry is a type of tree. So when silkworms are made to feed on mulberry leaves, they produce mulberry silk. So that way, silkworms are made to eat different types of leaves. And once they keep eating and eating and eating, and they grow in size, and then they enter the next stage, which is called the pupa stage. So the pupa stage is where the silkworm or this caterpillar will start to weave a net to hold itself. So this is very very similar to a butterfly. So how a caterpillar builds this cocoon around itself, the silkworm does the same thing. It builds a cocoon around itself, and when it is building when it's building the cocoon, cocoon, it secretes this particular fiber. It secretes a particular fiber made of protein. So for building this cocoon, it keeps spitting out or releasing this kind of protein, which becomes hard when it dries in air. So how when you make something out of clay and leave it outside to dry, it dries because it comes in contact with the air. So the same way, when the silkworm is building a cocoon around itself, it is actually releasing this kind of protein, and this protein becomes hard when it comes in contact with air. So this is the cocoon phase. So these round things that you see, these are actually cocoons, and this whole silkworm is inside the cocoon, and it is actually growing. And then after this cocoon stage comes out a beautiful silk moth, and hence the life cycle continues. So this silk moth will again give birth to will again lay many eggs, and then those will hatch and become silkworms, and then silkworms will form a cocoon around themselves, and from the cocoon will come out beautiful silk moths. So this is the life cycle of a silk moth. So where is this? Which is the step where we get silk? Where we extract silk from the silkworm. So when the silkworm enters the cocoon stage, these cocoons are boiled in water, or they are kept to dry in the sun. So when they're boiled in water, the silkworms inside them die, and whatever is left behind, this white color thing, that protein which the silkworm used to make the cocoon, that is what gives us the silk fiber. So it is also called as silk yarn. So if you take one single thread of silk yarn, and you take one more thread which is made of steel of the same width and the same length, then this thread of silk yarn is going to be stronger than the thread of steel. This is a very, very interesting fact which I thought I should share with you all. So after this process, after boiling the cocoons, we get silk, which is used to make different types of things like saris, shawls, and it has many other different uses. So these are the main types of silk: eri silk, tussar silk, muga silk, kosa silk. There is the most common one is called mulberry silk, and it is produced by mulberry silk moth. So the silk fiber from the cocoon is made soft and lustrous, and it is made elastic, and then it is colored. So in this step we saw that the wool is dyed, it is painted in different colors. So the same way, silk fiber is also dyed, it is painted in different colors, and it can hence be sold and used. So this is a very common thing in India, and this is about silk fabric. This is how you get silk fiber. I'm sorry, not fabric, silk fiber. So this is about silk fiber. Then let me tell you about an interesting experiment that you can try out, or it's more like an activity. So I told you in the beginning of this video that there are different types of fibers, and one of them is synthetic fiber. It is made artificially. It can be made in the laboratory. So what you can do is, you can take a little bit of pure silk. Silk is obviously from silkworms, and a little bit of artificial silk or synthetic silk. And if you burn these threads, you will notice a difference in the burning of these silks. So this is going to tell you how this is going to tell you the difference between pure silk and synthetic silk. And why does this happen? It's because of the things in it. So I told you that silk fabric or silk fiber is from this particular protein which is secreted by the silkworm when it creates the cocoon around itself. So this protein, when it burns, it gives out a different type of smell, but synthetic silk, which has other chemicals added to it, will give you a different smell because of the many different chemicals in it. So this is an interesting activity you should all try out. Okay, so from silk fiber to silk fabric. So I told you that silkworms are red. I told you about the life cycle of silkworms, and silk moths and all of that. So this is the process from the cocoon to the cocoon to silk, that is from the fiber to the fabric. So here the first step is rearing of silkworms. Sorry about that spelling error. Yeah. So first is rearing of silkworms, where I told you they're taken care of, they're made to breathe. And these white things that you can see, those are the cocoons. That is, those are the cocoons from which the silk fiber is extracted. So while rearing silkworms, what farmers do is that they store the eggs on cloth or paper, and they take care of these eggs. They keep them in hygienic conditions, that is clean conditions. Then the eggs, they are warmed to a suitable temperature so that the caterpillars can hatch out of them. So once the silkworm or the caterpillar hatches, it is made to eat different types of leaves. So, for example, mulberry leaves. So these silkworms, they eat the mulberry leaves, they grow in size, and then they form the cocoon. And these silkworms, they're kept in this clean bamboo tray made of bamboo, which has a lot of mulberry leaves in it. So these worms will eat the mulberry leaves, and then they will grow in size, and then they start to make their cocoons. So then these cocoons get attached to these kind of racks, or these wooden um, planks, and they grow inside the cocoon. And then once the cocoon is completed by the caterpillar, once the silkworm is inside the cocoon, then it develops into the silk moth. So when they're in the cocoon stage, they are either they're processed into silk. So what is this step? So these cocoons, all of them, they're taken and they're kept under the sun, or boiled in water, or they are exposed to steam. So steam is nothing but water vapor. Boiled water actually turns into a gas. So when you're boiling water, you can see that those waves coming out. So that is nothing but steam. So then these cocoons are exposed to steam, or they're boiled in water, or they're kept in the sun, as you can see in this picture. And so that the silk fibers will separate, and then these silk fibers, the threads, are taken from the cocoon and are used to turn it into silk. And this process is called reeling of silk, reeling, reeling silk. So reeling is done in these big machines, where these threads or fibers are put into the machine, and then they are made into silk threads, I mean. And then these silk threads are weaved into silk fabric. So this is about the two animal fibers that we've just learnt about, wool and silk. Please make sure you go through all of this. And just to make this session a little interesting, let me tell you a story. So this story is about how silk was discovered. So actually, nobody knows the exact time when silk was discovered, but according to a Chinese story, there was a queen, or rather an empress, called Si Lung Chi. I know that's a funny name, but her name was Si Lung Chi, and and there was this emperor called Huang Ti. I know both are very funny names, but this is just a part of the story. So the empress was Si Lung Chi, and the emperor was Huang Ti. So in their town, what happened was the mulberry leaves were damaged. Damaged as in they were getting spoiled, and they had to find out how this was happening, because this was happening in their garden. So when Si Lung Chi, the empress, went to the garden, that time she saw that there were these white worms which were eating up the mulberry leaves. And these worms are, of course, are silkworms, but she didn't know about that. She didn't know about them that time. So she also noticed that they were spitting that some of the worms, they were making these shining white cocoons around themselves. So she saw all of this, and when one day she was drinking tea in her garden, that time one of those cocoons fell into her cup of tea. And so tea obviously has boiling hot water, and Chinese tea does not have is not a lot like the tea that we drink. Chinese tea is more of boiled water and tea leaves. So since there was boiled water, when the cocoon fell into her cup of tea, that time the silk fiber started to separate from it. And that's how she realized that there was something called silk. And that's how silk weaving and the silk industry began in China. And this was the silk industry, and all of this processing of silk and all was actually a big secret in China for a long time, for about hundreds of years. And then later on, as exploration began, people found out about silk, and silk industries were set up in many places, like in India. And the route that they took to travel to China is also called as Silk Route, So this is how silk was, discovered. Well, that is about our class for today. We learned about wool, we learned about silk. So just to revise, let's start from wool. So fleece is cut from sheep. It undergoes a lot of processes. Fleece is actually the fiber. It is sheared from sheepskin. Then it is scoured. That is, it is washed. Then it is sorted. Then it is then the burrs are picked from it. Then the fibers are dyed, and then it is rolled into balls of yarn. So then we have wool, and then these threads or yarn is woven into different types of clothes and sweaters and etc. Then we learned about silk. So we have a silk moth over here which lays eggs, and we get silkworms. Silkworms feed on leaves like mulberry leaves, and they form cocoons around themselves by using a protein which they secrete or which they give out. And from these cocoons hatch silk moths, and then silk moths continue their life process. And then the fiber is actually in this stage, in the cocoon stage or the pupa stage. So silkworms are reared, they're taken care of, they're made to eat good leaves, they're kept healthy, and the eggs are also heated to a temperature so that the caterpillar can come out of it, so that they can hatch. And they're fed on mulberry leaves and different and many other types of leaves. And then they form cocoons. These cocoons are then processed, which is they're either boiled in water, exposed to steam, or dried in the sun. And then when that happens, the silk fiber separates from the cocoon. That is, the silk fiber starts to separate out. Then that fiber is reeled into silk. So that is called reeling silk, which is done in huge machines. So this is how we get wool and silk. And then these silk threads are used to weave silk fabrics. So that's about the journey from fiber to fabrics. I hope you all liked it and had fun. And also remember to make points. Remember to revise these chapters at least till school starts, because this is only going to help you make your concepts better. So thank you. Bye bye.